In this video, I'm going to provide you with an overview of the Afterburner, some features, and some screenshots. First and foremost, Ray's website is as listed. It has all of the manuals and compatibility information listed there. I'm going to attach the information that's on his features page in the next few slides, and after that I will show you the screenshots from the Android application. The user interface, thermostat, or control head, whichever name you prefer, includes a 1.3-inch monochrome graphic OLED display, a logical 5-button keypad with a case that houses the entire thing that are these dimensions. Cabling runs out the back side. It has a battery backed up real-time clock that can display that information in either a 12 or 24-hour format. In the OLED menu controls, we have things such as detailed run information, which includes the set temperature or set frequency depending on mode of operation, fuel used, fan speed, body temperature, glow plug if it's currently activated or not. In the basic run info, you just have the set temperature or set frequency along with fuel used. There's a clock. There's a weekly timer overview, the ability to set timers, and of course you need to be able to set the clock if you're going to use timers so that the events occur at the proper time. You have GPIO control, which can be used as a digital input and output to do other things. One of the clever things that you can do is you can set up an external button to reset the fuel used if so desired. The heater settings, which are password protected, are as follows, which include fuel mixture, the fixed settings, temperature probe offset, the low voltage cutout voltage, and fuel pump calibration. Continuing in the OLED menus control, you have user settings, which include the multiple thermostat modes. The GPIO settings, which I mentioned on the previous slide, could be used, for example, set up a momentary input to reset fuel used, for example. Home menu actions, timeout intervals. Under the system settings, you have the version information of the firmware that's running within the Afterburner. You have the ability to configure your Wi-Fi, the MQTT status, which I will touch on later. And you also have the Bluetooth settings. You have hour meters, glow plug, total running time, all of those things available to you. Under detailed information, you can see the detailed running information of the heater, which includes the temperature of the burn chamber, fan speed and voltage, the pump rate, the corrected battery voltage, and the glow plug power. Glow plug power is extremely beneficial in helping to diagnose no-start situations. Under communication, you have the Bluetooth SPP, Bluetooth BLE configuration. Android only. There is not iOS, nor will there ever be iOS. Under the TCP IP, you have a built-in AP or access point within the Afterburner that has a static IP address, broadcasts its SSID out like a standard wireless network. You can always connect to that, and that AP can be custom configured so you can prevent others from getting into your system if it was an issue. They also have a station IP or STA, which is your Wi-Fi network access. If you have Wi-Fi in close proximity to where your RV is sitting, if you configure the wireless access on the Afterburner, you'll be able to use your home network to reach out and control the heater, look at the temperature, do whatever you want. There's also the MQTT, which is handled via a Wi-Fi network, which means you still have to have wireless access, but what the MQTT does would allow you to access the Afterburner from anywhere in the world as long as you had wireless service or network service. The web service, heater control, and interactive web sockets. Final option under communication is the MQTT, which I have mentioned already, but it merely allows you to access the Afterburner from remotely across the internet by using a broker. The communication protocol or data exchange protocol is JSON encapsulated data, and you can get that via Bluetooth, via internet, or MQTT. The firmware updates for the controller itself or thermostat are available via a web browser or semi-automatically from the web server. And what semi-automatically means is this, is it will not automatically download and install updates. You have to have it connected to a wireless network through the station connection, and you have to press the series of buttons in order for it to check for that software update. And even after you check, you still have to approve of it being downloaded. It's very straightforward, very simple to do. And lastly is, once again, the support for the 433 megahertz key fob. And if I remember right, it can support either 3 or 4 of those simultaneously. In the timers area, there's 14 individual programmable timers where you can choose days, you can have it repeat, it can be a one-shot timer, obviously start, stop times and other criteria. You can have that start, stop related to a time period, to start or stop, or temperature profile functions. It can also be set up to work through the digital input output, the GPIO. The battery backed up real-time clock just ensures that no matter if the power is interrupted to the Afterburner, that it retains date and time, so that if you are using these timer functions, that it continues to be on time. And lastly, under that same area is a hour meter that shows how many hours or minutes, days, the glow plug has been used, the actual heater run time, and then the system uptime, meaning when was the last time the power was cycled to the Afterburner. Some of the unique features of the Afterburner include the remote wired temperature sensor, so the temperature sensor can be installed where it makes sense and the control head installed where you have access to it. The information can be displayed in Celsius or Fahrenheit. You have advanced controls to adjust the hysteresis, the linear pump rate, and then what is referred to as the cyclic mode or overtemp stop restart. So typically that is something that's used with the linear hertz mode, which means that as the set temperature is approached, that the fuel delivery is reduced along with the fan speed. So how I have mine configured, I have, for example, if the temperature is set to 70 degrees, as the interior temperature approaches 70 degrees, it will reduce the heat output and try to maintain it at 70 degrees. But if it goes more than 3 degrees above my set temperature, I now will go into a suspend mode where the heater shuts down. But once that temperature drops below 69 degrees is how I have mine set, it goes through the ignition sequence and starts to produce heat again. You have the ability to adjust the temperature probe offset. You have a low voltage sense that is there, so you can protect your battery, and that can be adjusted. And then you have the estimated fuel consumption, so you can program in a point where the heater will shut down before the tank is drained and the pump needs to be primed again. These next few slides are just going to be screenshots of the Android app to see what you can see. In the far left image here, you can see basically the menu, and that's what we're going to roll through. So you can see in the center screenshot the basic status and control, which I mentioned earlier is just the heat set point and fuel used. In the far right one, you see where it's detailed. It shows you the input voltage and body temperature. If the heater was starting up or running, we would see the pump rate, the fan speed, and then also the glow plug if it's still active. In this slide, you can see the next three in the series of screenshots. The far left is thermostat settings. I have linear hertz selected and Fahrenheit. There's multiple different thermostat modes available. Set to a 2-degree window. I have cycling enabled, which once again means if the temperature exceeds 73 degrees in this situation, the heater will go into a suspend mode. If it drops down to 69 degrees, it will automatically restart. I do not have frost mode enabled. Frost mode enables you to prevent things from going below freezing temperatures automatically. The middle screenshot is the system information, which shows the version of firmware that's on the Afterburner. You can see my fuel usage is at 0.102 gallons. You can reset it there. That's how I monitor what the approximate fuel level in my tank is. In the temperature sensors, you see two different temperature sensors listed. You see the DS item listed first. That's the actual temperature sensor that's being used. And then you can see the BME280, the environmental sensor, the altitude compensation or altitude sensor, has temperature on board also. And you can see that it's quite a bit warmer because it's inside of the Afterburner housing itself. In the far right screenshot, you can see the timers. You can see that this timer on my setup is set up to be activated through all 7 days. It's going to repeat. It's going to run from 9 o'clock p.m. until 6:59 a.m. and it's going to operate based on the set temperature. And in this case, it's set to 62 degrees. At 7 a.m., it automatically goes to 70 degrees. Here you see in the far left screenshot the heater tuning and settings, which allows me to adjust the fuel pump frequency and fan speed. That is what's used to set the fuel mixture properly so that you have a clean burn. Middle screenshot is for the Bluetooth configuration with the app. It can also communicate via Wi-Fi. These last three screenshots are MQTT configuration on the far left, which, as a reminder, is a setup that you can use a broker from remote access anywhere in the world as long as the Afterburner on the RV is connected to the internet. Center screenshot is for the data connection method, where you can choose between Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, LAN, and MQTT broker. I'm using Bluetooth, so that is exactly how I want it to be. And then the third and final screenshot in this slide is for the about information. That just tells you the version and privacy and that sort of stuff. I've been using the Afterburner since December of 2022. I was completely unhappy with the control that was with the Chinese diesel heater, even though mine was per se a deluxe version, meaning it had the Alpine mode for higher than 3,000 foot elevation and the ability to select temperature instead of just the 6 frequency settings for the output. I was ready to buy a Webasto or S-Bar because of that problem where even if I'm in the thermostat or temperature driven mode with the original controller, that it does not ever shut the heater down. After several hours of research and emails to several different brands of manufacturers that supply heaters, even though they're probably all built by mostly the same one or two companies, I had come across the Afterburner. And it was only after I bought and installed the Afterburner and relocated everything to the end of the cabinet on our HQ19 that I realized how powerful it really was. I installed it in the same location where Black Series is putting the controls or the thermostat for the propane furnace. So I'm really only using a portion of what's available because I don't need any more than that. So some final things to share. First and foremost, I paid full price for my Afterburner. I am not being compensated for anything that I'm sharing with you by Ray Jones or anyone else. I'm merely sharing my experience and this information regarding an Afterburner. Short version, for me, it was a game changer on using the Chinese diesel heater. In my opinion, based on my research and reading manuals, it puts it far above an S-Bar or Webasto, but at a fraction of the cost. I think it cost about $150 at the time I bought the Afterburner, and at that time Ray was still able to supply compatible ECUs. He does not supply ECUs any longer, but they can be obtained from AliExpress or Amazon. I bought the higher quality a 5-gallon aluminum fuel tank from Boyd Welding. I think that was $190 right at shipped to my door. And I also replaced the soft green fuel line that was with the cheap kit with the high quality S-Bar fuel line kit from Amazon. It was less than $15. So even if you had to buy a complete diesel heater because you didn't have one, I bought the 5-kilowatt Vavor from Amazon. It was $120 to my door, and it had everything. It had a tank, pump, lines, harness, etc. Obviously, the ECU is not compatible, but that is simple enough to fix. I actually have a compatible one as a spare that I carry with me in my camper.